Dear ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a very warm welcome to yet another virtual meet of the Colors of Glory Foundation. I am R. Ramakrishnan, one of the coordinators of these virtual meetings. Before we get into the presentation, I would like to briefly explain about our foundation. We are the first organization of its kind in India solely dedicated to promoting awareness of India's military heritage. Though championed by military veterans, it is composed of members with both civilian and armed forces background who share a deep love for military history. For over 4 years, since we came into existence in 2016, we have been conducting various outdoor and indoor events on a monthly basis in the nature of battle reenactments, military tattoos and exhibitions, documentaries and film shows, presentations and seminars, military history quizzes, commemorative marathons, and so on in the city of Chennai. These events have been highly popular, earning us considerable amount of public recognition. After the pandemic put brakes on our outdoor activities, we switched over to the virtual mode and have been hosting meetings such as today's almost on a weekly basis, wherein a number of eminent speakers have been addressing our forum. Besides the meetings, our website covers a lot of India's military history through blogs written by veterans and others. You can find the URL of our website www.colorsofglory.org at the bottom of the e-invites that you receive. Kindly visit not only our website but our Facebook page and customized YouTube channel and stay updated on our activities. We invite all of you who are not members of the Colors of Glory Foundation to come to our fold, be a member and be part of a unique initiative. We aspire to expand our base across India and conduct our physical events in cities other than Chennai too, once the pandemic is over. Meanwhile, we intend to continue with our virtual events not only while the threat is on, but later on as well as a regular feature, so that we can reach out ever more to people across the country and overseas. So, if you have a passion for military history or would like to know about a unique military heritage, please do join us. While the modalities of obtaining our online membership are given on our website, you are welcome to email us or call for offline membership. Our email ID and phone numbers are available on the website. Do take up the membership and strengthen our hands. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the webinar, here's a brief kaleidoscope of our activities. So let me quickly share my screen.
Audio is not playing, huh?
The audio isn't playing?
No, audio is not playing.
Okay, sir.
You have to click on that.
Yes, excuse me. 1 second. Let me stop sharing for a minute.
Open boxes.
Groupie Ahluwalia, sir, this is Anant Bevur. Do you read me? Now you have muted yourself.
I think the administrator has muted everybody.
Yes, so that was a brief kaleidoscope of our activities. So thank you all for viewing this. I now hand over the session to Wing Commander Ravi Mani to introduce our speaker.
You're muted. Ram, unmute him.
He is not muted.
Mani, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Ravi, you have to unmute.
No.
No, you have to unmute yourself. Ignesh, what is it? I mean,
No, yeah, it's his problem. I mean,
Yes.
he has to sort it out.
you have to unmute. Yeah, that's it.
Illa. No, your mic is behind. Bring the mic ahead. Mani.
You have not been muted, sir. System says your connection is active, but
Your mic, you have to turn the mic forward under your
Check the wires, sir.
in connection to the laptop.
You have to bring the microphone down. Microphone is heading up.
No, he has not unmuted. On the left, the unmute sign is there. You have to click it if it is crossed.
no, it isn't crossed.
It isn't crossed.
No.
Then you got to bring your microphone down. It is up. Yeah, microphone down.
Problem.
That-
I think there's some other issue. Rama sir, would you take
We,
over?
we,
No, we
no,
can hear you now.
we can hear you. We can hear
We can
you.
now hear you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm privileged to be requested by Rama to introduce Groupie Ahluwalia today. I have known him while we were in service, and also we've been interacting after retirement. Groupie Ahluwalia, who was born in 1930, December 1930, was commissioned in the Indian Air Force in 1955. And he had an illustrious career spanning 25 years before he took retirement in 1980. He is a highly accomplished pilot who flew innumerable successful missions, and he was awarded 2 gallantry awards, decorated twice for gallantry during his service. As a flight lieutenant with a heavy transport squadron in the NIFA in the early 60s, he flew multiple missions under hazardous conditions, often volunteering and flying as much as 9 hours a day without a break. He did a number of sorties to the high-risk Dhola area, which, as you know, is a valley, and flew about 240 hours in a period of 2 months. For this, he was awarded a mention in dispatches. Later on, as a senior squadron leader in 44 Squadron, AN-12s, during the 71 war, he was involved in planning, operationalizing, and carrying out the missions for using the AN-12 as a bomber, as a night bomber in the Western sector. As you all know, compared to the Eastern sector, the Western sector was a very heavily defended sector as far as the air defense ground environment on the Pakistani side was concerned. Most of these missions were carried out by 44 Squadron in the night. And you can well imagine the conditions under which the operations took place. And in fact, in one occasion, from one of the 7 sorties, 7 missions which he carried out during this war, he was coming back and his aircraft was radar locked onto by a Pakistani Air Force Mirage 3. As luck would have it, one of our senior fighter controllers at the Amritsar SU, using open channels and confidential channels, got to know that the Pakistani aircraft was tracking him. And he warned them, all the aircraft flying that night, to go down. Groupie Ahluwalia's aircraft was the one which was targeted by the Mirage, and he came down to treetop level and returned safely. He was awarded a Veer Chakra for outstanding gallantry and professional skill. Later on, he was promoted a group captain, and he became the station commander of Air Force Station Jorat. Those of you who joined the meeting a little earlier heard him talk about the crash of the Tu-124 of the VIP Comms Squadron of the Indian Air Force, which was piloted by Wing Commander Dilima and had Squadron Syriac as the co-pilot. This aircraft undershot, and in overcast conditions with light rain on a dark night, it came down short of the airfield. Unfortunately, though the rest of the passengers and the crew were saved, the captain and the co-pilot perished in the crash. Post-retirement, Groupie Ahluwalia moved on to New York. Actually, this came about probably because Mrs. Ajinder Ahluwalia, who was a very senior officer in the Indian Audit and Account Service, was posted to the Indian mission in the UN. And therefore, he landed up there. Obviously, we follow what the better half says. And he's been alternating between New York and India with annual visits to his two sons, one of whom is based in New York and the other in Bombay. Of course, with the COVID on, he has not been able to visit us for the last year and a half. With this, I will hand you over to Captain Ramachandran to conduct the proceedings.
Thank you. Group Captain Ahluwalia, sir, it's all yours. I mean, please, you can begin. You have to unmute yourself, sir.
Dr. Ramakrishnan, can you unmute him, please?
Group Captain Ahluwalia is unmuted.
No, he's still on mute. I asked him.
Yeah, now he is unmute. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
I can hear you.
Perfect.
First of all, my thanks to Wing Commander Ravimani. It was very eloquent introduction. And as usual, he's been good and kind. And I think these qualities are in his blood, in his not blood, but in his DNA. Thank you very much, Ravi, for introduction. And long time I've seen you today. Now coming to the, let me first of all say Jai Hind, Namaskar, and good evening to all the person joining today on this function. And I'm sorry I'll be speaking a little slow because I'm just running in my 91st years of age, so forgive me for that. And my special thanks to Captain Ramachandran for facilitating my participation and to address this August audience. Today, 30th June is also a very important, January is also a very important day for our nation. It's the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi, which took place at Delhi in, I think it was Birla House. And also this 2021 is the year that we will be celebrating 50th anniversary of victory over Pakistan in 1971 war. Now coming to the topic of the day, that is how the AN-12 and especially 44th Squadron got involved in bombing during 71 war. I joined the squadron sometime in May, June 1968. And that time, the squadron commander was Wing Commander Mankotia, and senior flight commander was then Squadron leader V.B. Vashist. Yet to see such beautiful combination of number one and number two. Learned a lot from both of them. Anyway, during that period, 25 Squadron was also based at Chandigarh, and both squadrons did practice bombing once in a while. We used to go to Pune and drop, the dropping was done at KK range. Now this range belonged to Armored Corps stationed at Ahmednagar. So, but there was no particular schedule laid on for that. Mostly the squadrons were involved, air maintenance, internal couriers, and once in a while we did some formation flying. It continued for a year and a half during my first stay there. Later on, the luck would have it, Squadron Vashist got his promotion and got posted as OC flying locally at 12 Wing. And a few months later, we got a new CO from, his name was Wing Commander Bhattacharya. He joined the squadron sometime in mid 70s, I think. In place of VB Vashist, there was another posting of Squadron Leader Bengal. Now he was a helicopter pilot. He commanded a 111 helicopter unit at Hashimara for 3 years before coming to 44. Now this combination of Bengal and Wing Commander Bhattacharya, I don't know how to put it. To cut the story short, our night flying, low-level cross-country stopped, and we hardly had any practice at KK range. And then in sometime in I think it was end of July that I got a call from I won't say squadron got a call from A2 West Indian Command, and that was Group Captain Long, that he wanted the flight commander to report to him. So I was sent there, stayed there for 14 days, 2 weeks. It was almost a paid holiday. The purpose of the visit was that he wanted to know that how much fuel is required and what distance the intel can fly with the low and high profile. So I mentioned to him that until unless I know the specific targets, I cannot work out the requirement. But however, I gave him that any combination, 3 hours and maybe going 300 miles, nautical miles into Pakistan and back should be possible. And that also, I mentioned to him that where we are positioned. At the moment, I told him that we are in Chandigarh. I'm working at, I'm telling you the details from based on Chandigarh. There I came to know that squadron is seriously involved in bombing mission during the war. Then after this 2 weeks with him, on the 16th of August, 70, he said that, actually he informed me on 14th, 15th of the holiday, 14th that we will be flying down to Pune, and I want to see the bombing, actual bombing done by the AN-12. So on 16th morning, Group Captain Lal and self, we were pulled up, we were picked up from Palam, and Wing Commander Bhattacharya and Bengal, they came to pick us up, and we landed in the afternoon at Pune station. That time, Air Commodore Dilbagh Singh later on became chief, was the AOC, and we had the briefing for the, actually OC 44 Bhattacharya gave the briefing, and it was decided that 2 aircraft will go, for bombing practice. He was in the first aircraft, and I was in the second aircraft. And as usual, since he was the CEO, Group Captain Lal went along with him. And not only Group Captain Lal, some extra crew also he had taken it with him. So we both, I won't go more into details of this accident. This AN-12 went into the hills. There are small hills at the KK range, just about 300, 350 feet high. So I do not know when we were supposed to fly at 500 feet, how he went into the hills. I was just behind him 1,000 yards, and I saw the aircraft crashed. So that was a very sad accident, and Squadron paid a very heavy price before even the war had started. After the court of inquiry, came back to Chandigarh, commanded the squadron for a short while. Anyway, I did cry. This is the first time I think I cried in the Air Force. Datigara was my AOC, and somehow I literally went and cried in his office and told him that the air headquarters should be blamed for this accident. So cut the story short, requested him that Wing Commander Visist is locally available, so he should be posted back to squadron. But it took about a month. His posting came, and then Visist took over the squadron. And then we started working on the 71 operation. Another surprise visit came that it was, I think, September. The Defense Minister Shri Jagjivan Ram visited the squadron, and he came straight into my office. Well, of course, along with that was my CO, AOC, and I think senior officer from Western Air Command. And I was to brief him. I told him, sir, that we were not given any specific targets, but I told him, sir, that whatever the job is given to us, we will do it. There's no problem. But I have a very acute shortage of spare part for AN-12, and that was a fact. And at that time, I saw a couple of hands going up behind him, stopping me not to talk about it. But I went and told him, I gave him the true picture of the squadron about the spare parts. So he went away, and it's amazing that he made another visit. I think it was in October, maybe beginning of November, 71 came after 2 months and came to the office and asked me directly that whether I got the spare parts or not. And by then, of course, we had received all the spare parts. And I was really amazed that a defense minister of a country, he had no staff officer to make note for him. And he remembered that this squadron needed spare parts. So then it was decided that earlier we were told, decided that we will be moving to Bareilly for the operation. So on 28th or 23rd or 24th of November, I and my CEO and I, we went to Allahabad and went to Central Air Command. PP Singh Vice Marshal was the person handling bombing. And I think during 71 war, all the bombing missions were given to Central Air Command. He was handling internal as well as Canberra's. So he told us that we will be doing this job and you will be moving to Bareilly shortly, so squadron should be ready. So, but no specific targets were given. Landed up on the when we went to the aircraft, we had come in two separate aircraft. So Vashist flew back to Chandigarh and he directed me to go to Bareilly and make arrangements. So landed at Bareilly, called the station commander and all his principal officers, CTO and ad and, you know, and gave them the requirements, told them that we will be moving, told them that there will be minimum of 9 aircraft plus accommodation for officers and men, and asked them that whether they have 500 pounders with them or not. And amazed to hear that he said he doesn't have any bombs at the station. So rang up AVM PP Singh and told him about it. And then he told me that that the train would be coming in a day or two to Bareilly. And he said this train is being diverted. It was routed to Jorat earlier, and now is being routed back to Bareilly. And that is where I just came to know that our first destination was to go to Jorat and operate from there. However, flew back after giving the briefing, landed Chandigarh and informed my CEO the job done. Then on 28th November, we were told that part of the squadron should move to Bareilly. So we had made all the arrangements meanwhile, and I had a very good master warrant officer in the DDS. I am sorry, I forget his name, but excellent chap, gave him the requirement and he packed all the spares and everything, and we were ready to move. So immediately when the message came, with 6 or 7 aircraft, all service aircraft, I think. I left behind 2 aircraft and went to Bareilly. So settled down there in the same night, that is 29th, 30th, and 31st, 3 nights, we did low flying cross-country practice. But one thing I learned there, nobody had told us or it struck us earlier, that when we approaching the target, how earlier the sound of the aircraft can be heard. So I requested the ATC and told them that I will be coming back lower, but 300 feet, and they should note down the time. They hear the sound of the aircraft and the time we reach overhead. And then we also tried next day at 500 feet. And that was very encouraging. At 300 feet, there were hardly few seconds that the flying control hear the sound of the aircraft approaching the airfield. So squadron commander with 2 aircraft more joined me on 3rd in the morning. And on the 3rd, on the telephone, we were given, meanwhile, I had got the other aircraft loaded with the 500 pounds bombs. You know, these are World War II vintage bomb. Another thing just came to my mind, I must bring it out. You know, when I was doing, taken the squadron for practice bombing at Jamnagar, we used to drop 6 pounds practice bombing, 6 in number. And I wanted to know how many bombs really explodes on the ground. And I requested that observer there to give us the figure. And it was astonishing to hear that only 40%, maximum of 40% bombs got exploded. And the rest of the bombs were just lying there on the ground. So anyway, we got some idea. And on the 3rd, when we got the orders to go, so assembled the squadron. So target was Changamanga. We point, saw it on the map, worked out the flight plans, and we had by then decided that we'll go 6 aircraft. The target was Changamanga. There was a concentration of the troops. There was some railway station, and there was a thick jungle, and under in that coverage, their concentration of troops and ammunition. So you'll be surprised to know that we in the Air Force at that time had plenty of Vampires drop tanks lying in the storage. So these drop tanks were used cradle where we put 500 pounder. So I carried, this was the first that aircraft and went for dropping. And on the target, because what I read in the earlier World War II books and here and there, I thought the lower you go, the spread will be more because of the forward speed. So I got down to about 200 feet and dropped. When I dropped that the whole ground was so lighted up. I could see the people running, not only the ground, even my cockpit was absolutely lighted up. And fortunately, no hit, except all 5 aircraft came back without any damage. My aircraft was hit by ground fire, and at least that assured me that I was at the right place, dropped the bombs at the right place. So anyway, the same target was repeated the next day, that is on 4th of November, same number of aircraft. And I just want to tell you something more which had just come to my mind. That very first day, when we were going for bombing, my signaller told me, "Sir, you want to hear Prime Minister giving the speech on the radio?" That time, on 3rd, Prime Minister, the Defense Minister, they were in Calcutta and attending the All India Congress session there. So when she heard of this war, Pakistani attacking our air bases in Adhampur, Halwara, Pathankot on 3rd. So the war had already started. So I heard on the aircraft before I reached the target. We landed safely, repeated the same targets next day, and with the same configuration, 5 aircraft with the 500 pound. And incidentally, we carried 40 bombs in each aircraft and 30 drop tanks bomb. So then on the 3rd, 4th, 5th, that was our very, very important target. In the evening, we got a call that you might have to go to Hajipir to drop the bombs, and the army is in big trouble. And the Canberras have refused to take this task because they have never flown in the hills. Secondly, we were told that the line between our troops and the enemy are very, very close. So we have to be very careful while dropping the bomb that we should not hit our own troops. But unfortunately, it was amazing. We were just given a very rough idea that they are from Poonch. They have a small airfield there. And then from a Poonch, it is about, Hajipir, you can work out if you fly, and it just takes about 3 to 4 minutes. So I requested that if Poonch can give us a kind of a goose length on the runway, and that will assure us that we are on Poonch, and then we can head on on time basis and hit Hajipir. But when I took off, we went straight from Bareilly. Again, we 6 aircraft went, but I staggered it, with an interval of 30 minutes, 20 minutes. I knew it, even there is a Pakistani in the air, they cannot hold on for so long to intercept all the 6 aircraft. So it was staggered. So when I reached Srinagar, head for Punch, there was no problem in navigation because, and it's again, I want to share it. It was the first time that we were flying at 25,000 feet, but 20,000 feet, a moonlit night over the Himalayas, and so snow-covered peak. And there was so much of light, it was so bright there that I could read the map in the cockpit. It was really fascinating. Anyway, cut the story short, we reached Punch, nothing was there. We could not see the Punch runway because in the valley it was so dark. So we set the course for Hajipir, but there were all hills and no firing was going on down below. So I thought, we were told that that we have to be very careful. I didn't know what to do. I returned back, came back to Punch again, made another round, still couldn't decide where to drop. Then, at the candidate, when you join Air Force, you have a lot of interest to read books. And fortunately, the World War II had just ended. And I had read the book, Dam Buster, Group Captain Cheshire. I also had the privilege of meeting this Group Captain Cheshire in person in Delhi when I retired, but that is later on, some other time I'll tell the story. So I remember that when he went low so that the enemy could open their fire and that disclosed their location, and that is where he bombed. So I went low. So as I went low, so there was Diwali in front of the aircraft. And that is the time I told the navigator to release the bombs. We came back safely, all of us. And other interesting, then as we landed, I think it was 4 o'clock in the morning. I used to stay back in the office till every aircraft landed, debriefed. Then we went to sleep. And in the morning at about 7:30, station commander, I will not name it, but 7:38, he came to our room. Vishist and CEO and myself, we were staying in the same room. And I had the telephone on my bedside. But whenever we went to sleep, I used to disconnect the telephone because that was only 2-3 hours sleep we could get. So we didn't want to get disturbed. So he came in and he knocked at the door and said, "You guys are sleeping and there's no telephone." So I told him that I have disconnected the telephone and we needed some sleep. So he said, "I've been getting telephone from Air Chief and as well as from the Army Chief, General Manik Shah, that you guys have made such successful bombing on Hajipir, and they're very, very happy about it." And that made us also very proud that we have done a job. The other, we also won, Hajipir was the other one, as he mentioned. I think I was going to Soleimani bridge when I was caught up by the Pakistani aircraft and they saved us. Here also, I just slipped a mind. When we went to Hajipir, I was also picked up by Pakistani aircraft. And the whole recording was done by Air Defense Center at Ambala, which I came to know later on. I knew somehow Group Air Commodore Surinder Singh, he was the AOC, Air Defense Ambala. And he told me the story that but they didn't know how to contact me. This Pakistani, since I was floating around in that area for almost half an hour, he came. And when he was told to fire, rather than firing the missiles, he fired guns and he peeled off. So by the time he peeled off and could be positioned again, I was out of range and I'd gone back. So that was another incident which has been recorded by the air defenses at Ambala. Soleimanki, as I mentioned, was again, we were picked up, and thanks to SU Amritsar who saved us. Then we carried out the other successful was we were told Fort Abbas. The Fort Abbas was across, I think, Rajasthan, Bawalpur area. And we went to Hendon and got the fuel. And here again, as we took off from there, for Fort Abbas. And then we have studied the map. We saw that old pre-partition, the railway line used to go to Fort Abbas from India. So after hitting that, we went down 300 feet and we just followed the railway line, and which took us straight into Fort Abbas fort. And we bombed there and came back. And I think there also the successful bombing report had come to air headquarters or maybe army. That's what we were told later on. And then we bombed, I think, two railway yards in Singh area. And there were two more missions my squadron carried out. I don't remember the targets, but they were not very important. The last two targets were most important, and that was, by then it was, I think it was already sui gas. Just show me the, just trying to look for the date when we went to sui gas plant. Anyway, it was, I think 11th or 12th of November, the message came that we will be going to Sui gas plant. I must say, Sui gas plant, the markup target was given to us when we were in Chandigarh, and that markup target was so well designed to the scale that I must have studied it 100 times. It must almost appear that I've been living there. So anyway, so we planned the target, 3 aircraft again. So this time, CO self, and in between, I think the boy, there's a Maharashtrian boy, very smart guy. I'm sorry, I forget his name. He was in between, and we went to Jodhpur, landed there daytime, and got the aircraft refueled, waited for the sunset. We prefer to go, since a Sui gas plant was within the 3 sides, there were hills. So we thought that we'll go half an hour after the sunset, because you still get good light after the sunset. You can see up to a half an hour. Same is when you sunrise, before half an hour sunrise, you can see clearly. So then after taking off from Jodhpur, we went low, and when the CO bombed earlier. We knew exactly where the domestic area was, and we had no intention of bombing it. So all 3 aircraft, when CO dropped this bomb and I saw them busting them on the ground, and I transmitted then and there. We had our own confidential channel between the N12s. And then we all 3 of us dropped and came back. I landed back at Jodhpur for refueling. I think Bafoor can tell me, I'm just forgetting, we used to have 2 types of A12. One earlier series had carried less fuel, and later on carried, I think, 2 tons extra fuel. So somehow I was carrying this 500 series A12 with less fuel. So I had to land at Jodhpur again to refuel and join the squadron. So this was we thought the last. By then, we were hearing on the radio and that war is almost going to come to an end. But but we kept all the time 2-3 aircraft loaded, even when we are not given the target. The 3 to 4 aircraft are always kept ready for operation. So on 15th or 16th, 15th, I think, 14th or 15th of November, got a message. As I said earlier, the targets were given to us on day-by-day basis from the Central Air Command. So they said to go and bomb. There was an ordnance factory in Dhaka. It was very close to Dhaka airfield. And it was called Jadavpur Ammunition Dump. So I took 3 aircraft and went to Jadavpur. There also the railway line getting in, the ammunition depot was very, very camouflaged. And mind you, it was an absolutely bright daylight attack. By then we had come to know the Bangladeshis Pakistani Air Force in Bangladesh is grounded. So we flew like we are flying in our own country. Made a couple of circles over the factory to really locate it. Ultimately, that railway line again helped us to lead us in. So bombed the depot, and my signature just got saved. You know, the small arm bullet just passed through the aircraft and very close to his foot. So landed at Guwahati for refueling, and other 2 aircraft went back to Bareilly. So we thought that this is the end of the story, and almost war is coming to an end. And the surprise came to us on 16th of November.
December.
16th of December. My apologies. 16th of November was a real surprise. They said we need 1 aircraft to go to Skadu. That was in that runway in the occupied POK. And this target has been given to Canberras, but they haven't flown in the hills. So we need an A-12 to lead these 2 Canberras to bomb Skadu airfield. So my CO led 2 Canberras right into Skadu airfield. They bombed and came back. So the war actually ended on 16th. In between when, you know, it was amazing. I don't know. I think it was a bad planning. The squadron was also used whenever 2-3 days in between when there was no target for us. We are used to carry troops from Hindon to Bagdogra, Damdama, Calcutta, and one or other places I don't remember. I myself flew 2 days on these trips for airlifting troops and material for the army. Of course, I told Air Marshal P.P. Singh, I said, sir, we have great difficulty a transport crew to be motivated as a bomber crew, and you, after 10 days, you again want us to do the same job that we were doing for years. Give us a break. But anyway, he said, your job has to be done. So we carried on. So the war ended on 16th. Squadron came back on 28th or 29th of December. We came back to Chandigarh. And of course, I took all the squadron back, and Vashist stayed back because we heard the Air Chief Marshal Lal was visiting Bareilly to see the squadron. But so he met the chief, and 29th December, he also joined us in Chandigarh. And on 31st night, of course, we had a New Year party in his house, and almost everybody was drunk. And the other thing, yes, you know, in middle of March, middle of Jan 72, now, the Russian chief came to Chandigarh. Air chief, Russian air chief came to Chandigarh, and he wanted to see how we have done it. So we got one aircraft loaded with 40 bombs, and showed him, briefed him, and most probably in the Russian Air Force had never done formation flying of AN-12. So we put 3 aircraft and showed him the formation flying also. So that Russian delegate, they polished, I think, almost 3 bottles of scotch at lunchtime and went back happily. The war ended. We all enjoyed.
Fly past. Fly past. Republic Day.
Then you know that the morale of the country was sky high. So the 21st, the Republic Day fly past. This task was only given to 44 squadron. So I led the 9 aircraft formation on the Republic Day fly past. Here I just want to bring something which most of you will know it. You know, the fly past, the first fly past was taken in 1950 when India became republic, and I think 100 aircraft, Indian Air Force aircraft took part. The saluting dais used to be where the beating the retreat takes place, called Vijay Chowk. And this Vijay Chowk, I think the name is also given after 71 war. It used to be known some other crossing, I don't remember. But then it was, and for 71 war, again, the saluting dais was shifted to Vijay Chowk. And that is where the entire fly past took place.
Highly decorated squadron.
And I think that's the only transport squadron which I think of we've got a battle honors, Mahavir Chakra, couple of V Chakras, numbers and numbers of Vayu Sena medal, Vishish Seva medal. I'm sure I haven't been to squadron. They never called us back. That's my regret. I think I should, Bavur should make note of it. Well, there must be a couple of boards hanging in the squadron gallery showing the number of people decorated. Another interesting, it just come to my mind, want to share it with you. Air Chief Marshal Lal came to visit our squadron once, And in 44, we had laid on conduct of transport pilots, do this, don't do this. There were 10, 20 points written there. So as he was climbing the stair and he saw the board and started reading, then he took out his pen and he started circling some of the words, and they were wrong spellings. And in the Western books, he wrote down the Squadron needs an Oxford dictionary. And with that, I think I've spoken enough, and it's been wonderful being with all of you. I was so excited. Over 40 years, I've been out of touch, except on emails with Ravi Mani and with few more. I haven't seen my old CEO, which is, I think he's settled in Gurgaon. Of course, I did meet two crew member in Bombay, and that's what all. I miss Air Force and I miss everybody I worked with. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It was such a fascinating, reminiscence of, hearing from someone like you who had been through it. I think it was so absorbing. I'm sure you can, you can take some time to sort of answer questions, some of our.
Of course, it'll be my pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome. He'll be happy to answer your question if you have. Question hour is open. Please unmute yourself. Now everybody can unmute themselves and ask questions if you wish
to. Sir, Vartaman here.
Yes, sir.
Carried the cargo.
Yes, it was, and sir, how we loaded those. We put the, we when I went to Bareilly, they didn't have the crane.
Money.
And so the station commander has to run around, arrange the crane, and one we carried from Chandigarh. And problem came. Okay, these we put the tanks first in the aircraft, and with the buckets full of those jellies, we brought it and filled it up.
Yes, it's actually a very dangerous explosive to have.
When you see, like Napoleon used to say, a good soldier, but he said, is he lucky or is not lucky? So we had all the luck with us.
Fantastic.
And most probably the squadron had already paid a very heavy price, casualties, 11 people. And the best of the crew, except, you've been Air Marshal, sir, you have commanded command, you have a higher view of the bird's eye view of the Air Force. But in small level, I think, I know when I worked in Air Headquarters, then I came to know that all fighter postings were done with consultation with the you had the directorate and the directorate of ops. Squadron commanders were picked up, consultation with the directorate of, but there was nothing like in the transport directorate. And that is why the posting of Wing Commander Bhattacharya and Bengal was, I do not know how they got posted there, really. And Squadron paid a very, very heavy price. An air car with 11 lives. I just couldn't get over.
So Gursaran sir, you must tell them about your experience, Morarji Desai experience.
You have seen the Morarji Desai was wonderful, actually. When for this aircraft, what saved us, the dilemma asked, I had flown with this entire crew in a junior officer sorry, Jorat only. So I knew
Jorat,
the
sir.
entire crew. Joginder was the navigator, and Ratnam and Dilemma. So they asked for a direct approach. I forget when you come from Tezpur side landing Jorat, I don't remember the runway bearing, but they were coming from Tezpur side and they asked for a direct landing and the permission was given. So they overshot and went around. The flying control asked the pilot the reason for going around. So what I saw standing on the tarmac, the aircraft was high. So that's why most probably had gone. On the way back, when we were turning down, on final, see that transmission, the last transmission from the aircraft was turning final. And then we heard in the recording some noise. And that is the time the aircraft started hitting the treetops. So Moraraji, the aircraft crashed. I just shown the photograph. I just showed to people before. So picked him up, went to pick him up. I must give him the full credit. You know, he was injured slightly on his face and all that. And his son, his name was, he has only one son. He was
Christian
also
or something.
no,
Christian
Kanti
or
Bhai.
something.
No, Kanti Bhai.
Kanti, correct. Kanti Bhai, correct.
Kanti Bhai.
He
He
is
was
the
badly, Kanti Bhai was badly injured. And the chief minister of Arunachal Pradesh, she was also injured. But the two people were more injured, this Kanti Bhai and this. And when I went, saluted him and asked him to how is he, and you know, Kanti Bhai was put there in a village on a cart. So I had taken the medical team also with me, ambulance and everything. So great man. He said, no, don't look at him. You go and see the first other injured person. It really made me so proud that here is the Prime Minister, only son. He is not allowing his son to be seen first. And he wants other injured people to be attended. And of course, then the medical team took care of everybody. We had that hospital, Air Force Hospital there. We had already made the arrangement before bringing them. OC Hospital was there to receive them. And when I brought him to the hospital, Moraraji decided I won't go under medical checkup. So I don't know from where I got the guts. I told him, I said, sir, I'm sorry, you have to undergo the medical checkup. So then he said, no, I'm under you guys. Okay. So then he went under medical checkup. His behavior was excellent, excellent. I do not know how he was measured in the political circles, but what contact I had with him that night, it was just excellent. I happened
Thank
to
you,
fly
sir.
with
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
Ruti Ahluwalia, sir, this is Anant Bevur. Good morning to you.
Hi, Babu. Where is 44 these days?
I met you. 44 is back in Chandigarh.
Really?
It was moved to Agra when we got IL-76.
I know that.
And they went to Nagpur.
Yeah.
And now they are back in Chandigarh, but they are now in the building where 25 used to be.
Okay.
And in 44 building is 48 squadron.
All right. Have they extended the building at the same small?
No, same, a little bit of extension, etc. But otherwise, the Air Force station looks exactly like it was when you left Chandigarh.
Oh God.
You
Except that
must come, sir. You must come to Chandigarh. This is very unfair.
I will, sir. But unfortunately, I've been coming here. I've been going to India every year. Thanks to my wife, when I took my, like Babur, I also took my premature retirement because my wife was a bureaucrat and she was a joint secretary in the ministry when I was hanging around at Jorat, and my younger son was only 4 years old. So that is where I put in my papers to be with my family. And then I came and joined her in 80, and 84 beginning, she got posted to Washington, DC in the embassy. And then we enjoyed that diplomatic privileges for 3 years till 87. Went back to India, posting was to Calcutta for a year, then back to Delhi. Then last, he was joint secretary in the Ministry of Health. There she applied for one job in the United Nations. Actually, it was in UNICEF. So she was picked up, and before joined this job, she was posted as Accountant General JNK. And we came to USA in earlier stay was from 84 to 87 in the embassy, Indian Embassy, Washington, DC. And then we came back to New York in 97. And she continued to work with she resigned her bureaucratic job and got absorbed in the United Nations and retired, I think, in 2010. I have two sons. My elder son is a doctor here, and so is my daughter-in-law. My younger son, my both children studied at modern school, Delhi. So my younger son, after his high school, my doctor's son did medicine in India. My younger son, after doing his high school, he got admission at Harvard on scholarship. So he did his undergraduate there. He came in 94. So we were back in New York in 97. So then we never thought of going back since both children were here and they were having their practice. One was having practice, another one studying. Then he did his MBA also from Harvard. And he is one guy who doesn't want to stay in USA. He is back in Bombay because he wants to enjoy life with a couple of helpers around him. So God has been very, very kind. Let's put it that way.
Sir, I wonder if you know that Air Marshal P.C. Dal was also a Modernite.
Oh, of course, yeah.
He was a Modernite, and his son Robi also, because Robi didn't join the Air Force, but also a aircraft crazy chap, totally aircraft crazy. So your sons are from modern school, I am from modern school, and we've got a Army, Air Force, Navy, Defense Modernites Club. Of which, so the senior most member got commissioned in 1946. He's 92 years old now.
Oh, I'm in 91. I'm 90. But, among the all, I must say, H. Marshall was a remarkable person.
Oh, indeed, sir. Indeed.
I had, when I took my retirement and came to Delhi, and one day I got a call from Air Headquarters, and he was given a staff officer and an office in the Air Headquarters. He was writing his book that is days with the Air Force. And staff officer asked me if we can come and see him. So the appointed time, I went to Air Headquarters, met him, spent 2 hours with him. And he was so methodical, he pulled out the map, and that time things were also very fresh in my mind. So we went through all the targets and how we did. And, whatever I talked today, gave him the briefing. So that went, and then he, when you meet such big people, they also give you some historical things. And he mentioned to me that when the naval chaps attacked Karachi, and there were fuel dumps and everything was burnt, the air chief was his course mate, Pakistani air chief.
Oh,
So they must have met somewhere, and he told him that for 5 days or 6 days they couldn't see the sky, and by then itself they had known that they are going to lose the war.
great. Lovely. Look, I can see the house now. Next time in New York, we'll come and see you, look you up, both of you.
Wonderful, wonderful. What could be better?
Bilkul, sir. It's such a pleasure seeing you personally like this. It's such a pleasure. It's so wonderful seeing you. God bless.
किस तरह
Wonderful.
चंडीगढ़?
Sir?
तुसी किस तरह हो?
बस ठीक है सर, फिट ऑलवेज फिट, खेती कर रहे हैं.
न तारो में जब अजिंदर नु बुलाना ना तो अन्ना मिले पे ना के मामा
मामा
I call, my
हाँ
call
मैं जॉइन तो दादी कहना, मैं जॉइन तो दादी कहना, दादी बच्चे दादी कहते हैं.
No. I called her mama the time I got children, because when the children were born, if I call and some child calls, she will listen to.
Because our grandchildren are with us here. They call her Dadi. मैं भी दादी कहते हैं. Hello, सत श्री अकाल. सत श्री अकाल. Baba ठीक है? Yeah. This is the Baba. Sat Shri Akal. Very nice seeing you all, and I can see your house as beautifully kept as in India. बहुत बढ़िया.
Now it's exactly the same.
Sat Shri Akal ji.
Sat Shri Akal ji.
It's
Hello.
the kid.
Sat Shri Akal ji.
Sat Shri Akal ji. Sat Shri Akal
Yeah.
ji. So good to see
Rajinder,
you.
you're looking exactly the same.
और असीम
कितने साल हो गए?
इधर.
Thank
This
you.
is my मेरी ग्रैंडडॉटर उन ग्रेजुएशन कर रही है.
Sat Shri Akal.
Hello,
Sat
Sat Shri
Shri
Akal
Akal, beta. Sat Shri Akal. So wonderful to see you.
Good evening, ma'am. Thank you for coming on our screen.
Great. Hi, DP. Thank you. Ramu, thank you for putting me through to the group camp. We have a bump chums, huh? Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting us through.
Wonderful for you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah. Ravachandri, I'm so grateful to you.
No, not at all, sir. I mean, it's our honor. We have. Are there any more questions, gentlemen? Thank you very much, sir, for making our evening so fascinating.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, all those who attended the event and made it quite a success. If you all just stand by, I'll play the national anthem and close the meeting.
That'll be wonderful.
Thanks for all, your glory stuff. Very, very good. Lovely. Keep it up, DP.
Thank you.
Right, sir? Thank you, sir.
ठीक हो गया?
बहुत बढ़िया.
We look forward to meeting you all at the next event. We will be notifying you all. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Thanks a lot.